Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
So how do you have a successful community-based event? In last week's episode, we talked through some criteria of picking which events you're going to attend. First off, we started about reverse engineering that end objective that you want. Do you need more enrollments? Do you want to grow your brand? Do you want to network with similar or like-minded businesses? Or do you need more staff? When you have that in mind, when we start to move through the process, it just makes everything a lot easier. I did go off on, I wouldn't call it a tangent, I would call it a good point around not limiting yourself to events, because this brand building aspect cannot be understated. I've done a couple of episodes around the power of brand. I'd highly encourage you to re-listen to those. Then we talked through casting that wide net, like how do you find the events, church events, at schools, at fairs, job fairs. You get that sheet of all the events, and then you just start calling. You get the details. How many people normally come? How are you promoting it so that you can really pick the right events? Now, as you've started to pick your events, you're going to have some months that might be a little bit heavier than others. In Buffalo, for example, the weather's beautiful June, July, August, and maybe half of September. There's a lot more fairs and festivals during that 3.5 month time frame. Now, are there festivals at Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween? There definitely are, but there's a lot more that are crammed and stacked over the summer. So I might have a little bit of a heavier schedule there. But as I've got these events, I could argue that the execution of the event and then the follow-up, the follow-through is just as important. I've talked a lot about the fortune is in the follow-up. There are these bags that I give my team. They're literally, and I wish I had one in front of me. I'll have to go grab one for the next episode. And I call them the bank bag. And in this bag, there's stamps, there's pens, there's postcards, stationery, so that as they're meeting people, what they're doing is they're writing a handwritten note. It was such a great time meeting you. And then they're putting a stamp on it and they're putting it in the mail rapidly. The fortune is in the follow-up, and even in more particular, fast follow-up. The same thing is true with events. But you've got to bear in mind, going back to that first objective. If your objective for the event was brand building, you might not have as much follow-up. You're not going to have this big list of leads. So when I'm preparing for a brand building event, I want to make sure that I've got great brand materials for the booth. It's clean, and that's making sure that you have everything. So some of the events are just you get a little table and you can have a tablecloth. That's not ideal. Hopefully I can have maybe a backdrop behind me. I can have some of those little pop-up stands. But you want to have all that stuff clean. And when I'm saying clean, it doesn't necessarily just mean physically clean, but rather, like, I'm using the wrong word, but I guess well organized and dialed in. If your brand colors are green, I don't want to see a tabletop that's yellow, for example. On brand is probably a better way for me to say it than saying clean, but dialed in and organized. You want to make sure that your materials are ready to go. On my table, I want to have brand-based items. So if this is a brand building exercise, maybe I have fun little giveaways that are branded with my logo. For example, if I'm attending a fair We're going to go and buy probably 100 stuffed animals, and they're going to have a little shirt or sweater that has my logo on it. You can get these if you buy them in quantity, not 10 at a time, under $5 each. When I buy big quantities, last time I think we bought over 1,000 for maybe $2 or $3 each, maybe even less. I'm trying to pick based on the event what I want to arm my team with. I'm not going to send them with a bunch of sign up forms and all the iPads and things like that to schedule tours if I'm doing a brand building event. I want to have well on point branded stuff for my booth or my table. And I want to have some kind of good giveaway, something, again, that's not cheap and chintzy. And this is where a lot of businesses make mistakes. You come up with whatever you can find at the local swag dealer. You say, hey, give me just 2,000 pens, and the pens are like 10 cents each, and they fall apart and they write terribly. Or fidget spinners, which have been out of fashion for 3 to 5 years. Like, you pick random things that they're trying to kind of give away to you. It's always a big sign if the promo company is trying to get you to buy certain things, they probably have too much overstock. You've got to look for things that maybe have a little bit of utility, something that someone might even put on their desk or hang in a room, for example. So normally the stuff you're giving away doesn't fit that criteria. Maybe you have a certain amount of bags that you could give away to potential families at this brand building event, and those might have a few nicer things. But look at the event and the types of people that are going to be there and reverse engineer the swag and maybe even a couple of giveaways just to get people to stop by your booth. Because I've been in all those awkward situations where you're at the fair, like, do you really want to go stop at the childcare center's booth and talk to them? But if they have a fun giveaway, and I always try and tie in the giveaways to again, something that is themed. So there's a giveaway and then there's kind of free swag. The giveaway is normally just something to capture some of their information, but really to get them to stop. Hey, we're giving away an iPad. Hey, we're giving away a $200 gift certificate to the mall or this restaurant, or we're giving away free tickets for the rides at the fair, like different things like that. That will drive attention. I need people to be going to your booth. Now, if it's an enrollment event, and I know that there's going to be a lot more people there that maybe they're going to be looking at scheduling tours. Similarly, good branding is on point, but I'm going to make sure that I have all of my materials and my systems and processes to capture data. So I normally have a QR code on everything. That QR code instantly, when scanned, goes to a simple type form, which then populates a Google Sheet. So I'm not having to have people writing their names and then figuring out, is that an A or an S, or did they forget to dot that? Is this a 1 or an L? I like them to have the QR code to scan, and I don't just have one QR code. Another rookie mistake. I have QR codes everywhere. Same QR code. It can be right on your pop-up banners. It can be a couple places on your table, for example. But I'm giving them an incentive. Like, why would you just scan the QR code? Could be scan to win. And maybe the first question is, are you interested in scheduling a tour? Yes or no? And if they say yes, that checks a different box, and maybe it even has them schedule live, or it alerts my team that, hey, we should talk to them. But even if they say no, then that's how I'm starting to capture their information. At a brand building event, I'm less concerned about the QR codes. I still use them, but I'm much more concerned because if it's a brand building event, I'm just trying to have people see my name. I'm lowering my expectations, that I'm putting goodwill out into the community, and this whole aspect around being omnipresent is going to help. That's why I go to those events. But if it's an enrollment focused event, the QR codes I'm much more concerned with. I've got enrollment packets ready to go in folders. I definitely have some giveaways, but I'm not going to be just handing out free swag like it's candy at a brand building event. I might be a little bit more strategic about who's getting a stuffed animal. I might have a candy dish, but probably not, because we don't promote candy at my centers, and everyone does candy. I'd rather give hand sanitizer. that I take and put a couple of Legos in it, for example. That's going to stand out. You can go to the dollar store, buy a bunch of hand sanitizer, and literally just put some Lego pieces in it. Just different fun things like that. But then what I'm laser focused on with my team is all the follow up right after the event and even during the event. Because most people do these events and then you don't follow up. You might follow up once, send an email. I see that you were interested in potentially taking a tour. When should we schedule that? You send one email, you write it off, you move on to something else. You've got to be more aggressive. Emails, text messages, calls, physical mail, lumpy mail, more calls, emails, text messages, direct mail. I'm hitting them up with all different angles, knowing again that the fortune is in the follow up when it comes to these types of events. Not as concerned in the brand building event, but I'm much more concerned when it's an enrollment focused event. It's the same thing when it comes to a hiring event. I've got QR codes that are going to quickly capture some of their details, and I have built in if statements. If they select yes to this, they move on to this. If they say no to this, then maybe we just say thank you, we've got your information. I know what we're looking for. So I have these if statements. So for example, if we're looking for someone that has a college degree and they say no, then maybe it just says thank you for your information. We have your information. If they select yes, they can continue to go through the process. So we're trying to capture that detail. We're not going to have enrollment paperwork at an event like that. We're going to have potentially the application. We're probably going to be scheduling interviews. We might be doing on-site interviews. And then I'm staying on top of those people like white on rice as well. But with that, I'm trying to schedule an interview either live at that event or within a day or two, very, very quickly. And then finally, if it's an event where you're going to network with like minded individuals, I'm spending time with some of the other booth sponsors, and I'm doing that at all the events regardless. But there, I'm usually not giving away things. I'm going to have stuff. I'm already ready to go. I've got some enrollment stuff. I might have some applications. I'm doing some kind of giveaway. I've got some swag. But really, with that, I'm trying to form kind of partnerships, bonds, and I'm scheduling lunches, coffees, and lunches. Hey, you own XYZ Little Kids Gym. I'd love to find some ways that we could work together. Would it be a bad idea for us to grab coffee next week? What day works for you? Now, notice how instead of saying, do you want to grab coffee, I use the negative. Would it be a bad idea? That's something that Chris Voss taught me. So I'm scheduling coffees and lunches. I'm not just giving out my business card. I'm not just grabbing their business card. I'm scheduling coffees, lunches, or calls. And I'm going to try and move those relationships forward just as fast as potential staff, just as fast as potential enrollments. I've said it several times, the fortune is in the follow-up, but you need to walk into these events with game plans. You need to know what materials you're bringing. We have a checklist for every event. They have to check off so they don't get there and say, oh my gosh, we forgot a stapler, or we forgot the iPad charger. You're going through and you're having to physically check off that you are packing everything. We have two of the exact same booths at all times because there are several times where we have two events on the same day. And we have the same setup. So multiple tablecloths. We've got the 10 by 10 trade show booth, which is a lot of the events. And then we have I call them pull-ups, but where you're pulling them up and you're putting that awkward pull in at the top. And then we have the list of all the different things that they can grab for potential giveaways. Here's what we can grab for you. Here's the swag. And if they run out, they run out. I mean, we've had IOU certificates where everyone was grabbing our stuffed animals like we were giving away candy, and they wanted a stuffed animal, so we literally mailed out like 70 of those. Cost us a lot more money to mail them, but that was that brand building aspect. Know what the end objective is for the event, have a checklist for each of those events, and then follow up, follow up, follow up. That's the strategy to having these events pay for themselves so many times over. It's Michael Tazzer signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.